Hey guys, EDDBUD here. Today a review of a light and nimble shoe, but it does come with baggage. Big cases with hype written on the side. The HOKA ONE ONE MACH 4. Let's find out if the HOKA ONE ONE MACH 4 moves at 4 times the speed of sound, or if it's just something you wear in the wet weather in the UK. The MACH 4 comes in at 125 Earth credits in the UK. 264 grams in my UK size 11.5, which is a US size 12, which is 9.3 of the ounces. I think for a US size 9, there's a 35mm heel stack. There definitely looks like there's a lot more heel stack in my size of the shoe though. I took this one out for several runs totaling 16 miles, so that's about 26 kilometers, lots of different speeds. Anything from a pace of around 8 minutes 15 per mile, which is about 5 minutes 8 seconds per kilometre, right up to my sort of 10k range, which is about 6 minutes 30 per mile, approximately 4 minutes per kilometre. This is a shoe that I've purchased with my own Earth credits. No freebies here, so you get my honest opinions. Let's talk about the upper first. Standard fare for me here with this HOKA shoe. I had to cinch these lockdown laces to pull the lavishly long upper materials together enough to get a good lockdown. And I curse those elastic lengths. They move and squirm around, meaning a midway stop on my first run was required to relace. I did experiment with subbing the laces out to some other ones that weren't quite as elasticated. It did improve the situation a bit, but it's just a pain, isn't it? Having to take out laces from a brand new shoe and replace them. It's just irritating. Very close to the upper in the Carbon X2 actually. In fact, they look almost identical really. Slightly different feel. It's a little more silky in the Carbon X2. Can't believe I just said that. Yeah, slightly. I mean, there's not an awful lot in it. It's comfortable enough. The tongue doesn't sit too far up on your ankle, and although it's rather thin, I didn't have any issues with the lace pressure on top of my foot. I mean, my feet are quite dainty, you know. They're quite little. Actually, they're not. They're huge, cumbersome, and long. You get the picture. Breathable enough, and toe box room was quite adequate. It wasn't like in the Rincon when the ball of my foot was sort of butt up against the material there. That was a very, very narrow shoe. I found that as I picked up the pace, it became apparent that the shoe's upper began to give a little bit, and I had to retighten the laces a couple of times. As I hit higher paces, I started to feel a little bit of heel slip there. That's what I normally get with HOKA shoes. It just happens every time. Overall, a reasonable upper with the same issues that I keep encountering. Just too much upper around the sides of the shoe. Toe box is spot on, poor laces and significant cinching required. And that was with a thicker sock as well. I'm going to give this a 2.2 out of 3 for the upper after my initial runs. Midsole now. Midsole, surprisingly light and nimble. You know I love a lower stack shoe with a nice light weight, and that's pretty much what you got here. Certainly welcome that feeling, less clunky than the Clifton 7. Nice reasonable cushion. I think I put a little bit of that down to the midsole material, but also a little down to the fact that HOKA have put a much better insole into the MACH 4. You haven't got that wafer thin insole that you found in the Rincon. There's a little bit more sponge to this one. I mean, it's not like the Spenco type thing that you find in a Nike shoe, but there's certainly a little bit more there. It certainly increased the step-in comfort that we all want to feel when we first put a shoe on. But fortunately it translates to the ride of the shoe as well. There's some reasonable squash here, nothing wild like the Asics Nova Blast. A little bit more responsive, there's a little bit more bite there. More on par perhaps with the Reebok Run Fast 2 or 3. Closer to the Velocity Nitro, but feels longer and more ski-like. The Flow Velocity Wind feels a little bit more compact and concise than this shoe. It is just really long. Look how long it is. I think my dad's got fishing rods that aren't as long as this. That aside, very usable and not at all odd at slower paces. I did some recovery paces and I did some 10k paces, and it just felt good at all of them. The shoe spoke to me and it said, "Crank it up, Ed, crank it up." And no, I shouldn't have really. I ran at some faster speeds and it was good. Getting my heart rate up into the threshold zone, which is the fun zone. Some good return from the midsole and no murky sensations on my tortured pads. It felt firm, but good. In fact, the shoe sings once you find your rhythm and tempo. Just flows along nicely. Certainly the midsole, the best bit of the shoe for me. Capable of great range, and just like the Big Bopper, you know, that's what I like. I'm going to give this a 2.8 out of 3 for midsole after my initial runs. All the things you need in a daily vehicle. Outsole now. No, this isn't a pair of skis, so this is the outsole of the HOKA ONE ONE MACH 4. It's a strange sort of slippy, rubbery feeling there. Not sure I like it. And the protrusions are already starting to wear after 16 miles. I really liked the feel of it actually on gravel, but I think that's what's kind of destroyed it already. Concrete and road, it felt nice, but as slippery as an eel on the dew-covered grass. And on mud patches, it was more Blades of Glory than Field of Dreams. How long will this book cover last? At this rate, not too long at all. I think if you're reeling and rocking on the roads of Route 66, then just don't worry and be happy. But not for varied terrain ventures on grassy excursions. No match for Puma grip, Continental tyre offcuts, or invincible Bowerman bumps. I could do better for me. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 3 for outsole after my initial runs. Value. So this one comes in at £25 more than the Puma Velocity Nitro, 50 more than the Reebok Energy 3. Ouch! Perhaps there's a little more bite to the Mach 4 than those shoes, but that much bite? I don't know. I guess a tiny bit comparable to the Nova Blast in some ways, maybe the upper, but vastly more responsive than that Asics shoe. I think my big worry here is in fact the outsole. I can just about stomach the upper and get around that, switch the laces, just tinker around with it and probably get away with it, but the outsole just wears away. They just wear away so fast. I already pulled a couple of sharp stones that had got wedged into the foam there. They crumpled part of the outsole and it's a big worry. The shoe certainly is versatile, but I think it's going to burn out pretty fast and already is starting to after my early excursions. As such, it's going to knock the value down a little bit. The shoe needing some better laces out the box and some braking too, which is only going to limit its life. I'm going to give it a 2.2 out of 3 for value after my initial runs. So I think that gives us a 9.2 out of 12 after my initial runs for the HOKA ONE ONE MACH 4. Overall a shoe with loads of hype but an odd fitting upper to me. Quickly wearing an almost slippery outsole on certain surfaces, saved by a nice, light and responsive midsole. Worth 125 Earth credits. I think there's better options out there for less cash. I'll persist with it though, you know that I always do. Love it or hate it? Or are you in the middle somewhere on the HOKA ONE ONE MACH 4? Let me know in the comments down below. A quick musical interlude for you. You know I'm a big fan of Tame Impala. I recently revisited their 2015 album Currents. Kicks off with Let It Happen, which is probably my favourite Tame Impala track. It's got everything in there from really precise, crunchy, beautifully EQ'd beats that are always a little bit surprising. Lovely synth sounds there, analogue in nature, waving and warbling, and grimy bass that sounds like it's been tortured by a nutcracker. The vocal performance is beautiful, and I really like the sentiment of the track as well. A song for the moment, I think, letting things sort of wash over you, letting those stresses just drift away and not worrying about them. I really love track 4 as well, Yes I'm Changing, which is almost like a ballad, I suppose. It sounds like something from the 80s, almost like Phil Collins might have had a hand in it. Disciples is another favourite of mine from this album. Again, precise, chrome-like beats, and it's nice and snappy as well. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that moment in the film That Thing You Do, where Tom Hanks tells the songwriter that he wants something snappy. Love and Paranoia as well, another absolute classic tune from Tame Impala. Just epic sounds. He always seems to be able to craft the music so it beautifully backs the vocals and the sentiment that he's trying to put across. Some of the songs are actually almost naked, I suppose, in terms of their honesty. I really like that. So go and check that one out from 2015, Currents by Tame Impala. Okay, thanks for tuning in, sticking with me to the very end, guys. I should have a review at some point in the near future of that Asics shoe that everybody's talking about. It was supposed to be delivered recently, but I think over here in Europe, or at least in the UK, certainly there's been some type of delay. So when I do get it, I'll let you know what I think of it. It's certainly an inexpensive one. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when I launch those new videos. And it really does help the channel out if you give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you.